I didn't plan to play piano that night. For 3 years, I'd walked past the Steinway in Sterling Tower's lobby, past the gleaming black lacquer, the brass pedals that caught lobby lights like promises, and kept my head down. Maintenance workers don't touch the art. We fix what breaks and disappear. But Sophie pulled at my sleeve with those brown eyes, her mother's eyes, wide and hopeful in a way that made my chest ache. "Daddy, can you play? Just one song so I can sleep." The Christmas party swirled around us. Executives in designer suits clustered near the champagne fountain. Administrative staff laughed too loud, grateful for premium alcohol and a night pretending the hierarchy didn't exist. Someone had draped the marble pillars in white lights that cascaded like frozen waterfalls, and the scent of pine and cinnamon covered the usual smell of floor wax and ambition. My right hand trembled as I sat down. The scars caught the chandelier light, spiderweb patterns where surgical steel had tried and failed to restore what falling equipment had pulverized. 12 years ago, this hand had promised concert halls. Now it could turn a wrench, replace fluorescent tubes, snake a clogged drain. The nerve damage made fine motor control a gamble. I closed my eyes and began playing Midnight Echo. The melody emerged like rain on glass, each note placed with a precision that defied the ruined tendons. I'd written this 16 years ago for a girl who never knew I existed, poured everything I felt into music because words had always failed me. 8 bars Daniel Cross started but couldn't finish. I'd completed it, given it away, let him take credit, because that's what you do when you love someone from the shadows. You hand them pieces of yourself and ask for nothing. The room fell silent. Conversation died mid-sentence. Glasses stopped clinking. I played from memory, from the marrow of my bones. My damaged hand moved through passages it shouldn't be able to navigate, compensating, adapting, transforming technical limitation into raw emotion. This wasn't the virtuoso performance I might have given before Cleveland, before the accident. This was something else entirely, honest and broken, and still reaching for beauty. When I opened my eyes, Olivia Sterling stood 3 feet away. Her face had gone pale, color draining like someone had opened a vein. Those ice-blue eyes I'd spent 16 years trying to forget swam with unshed tears. Her knuckles pressed white against the piano's edge, gripping so hard I thought the wood might crack. I knew that look. I'd seen it in my own mirror enough times. The look of someone hearing a ghost speak. "Where did you learn that?" Her voice came out raw, barely above a whisper. The CEO's polished confidence had shattered, leaving only the 18-year-old girl I'd loved at summer music camp, the one who'd laughed at Daniel Cross's jokes and never noticed the scholarship kid washing dishes in the cafeteria. My heart hammered against my ribs. I'd known this moment might come, had dreaded and longed for it in equal measure. "It's just an old melody, something I picked up years ago." "Don't lie to me." The desperation in her voice cut like broken glass. "That song was written for me by someone who died 16 years ago. No one else knew it. No one could have known it." She moved closer, searching my face for answers I wasn't ready to give. "Who are you?" Before I could respond, Sophie appeared at my side, sleepy and smiling, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. "That was beautiful, Daddy. Can we go home now?" Olivia's gaze dropped to my daughter, then back to me. I saw the calculation in her eyes, the questions multiplying, the Ice Queen armor reforming as she remembered where she was and who was watching. She forced herself to step back, to breathe, to become CEO Olivia Sterling again, instead of the girl who'd lost her first love to a rain-slicked highway. But as I gathered Sophie's coat and hurried toward the exit, I felt Olivia's eyes burning into my back like a brand. I woke at 5:30, same as every morning. The apartment on the east side stayed dark until 6, relying on streetlights that filtered through cheap blinds to carve the room into shadow and orange glow. Sophie slept in the bedroom, the only bedroom, while I took the pull-out sofa that had belonged to Rachel's parents before the cancer, before the medical bills, before everything. I made coffee, the grocery store brand, not the artisan roasts from the cafe 2 blocks from Sterling Tower, where executives lined up for $7 lattes. My mug said, "World's Best Dad," in fading letters. Sophie had picked it at a thrift store 3 years ago, spent her allowance on it, presented it like a trophy. I'd held her and cried into her hair while she patted my back and told me it was okay to be sad about Mommy. The city woke slowly outside my window. Delivery trucks rumbled past. A siren wailed in the distance. Steam rose from manhole covers like the earth was breathing. I stood there, watching light creep across buildings, thinking about the piano, about Olivia's face, about 16 years of loving someone who didn't know my name. My toolbox sat by the door. Milwaukee pack-out system, red and black, organized with the precision of someone who'd learned that chaos costs time and time costs money. Socket sets, wrenches, screwdrivers, both Phillips and flathead, a Klein multimeter that had saved my ass more times than I could count. Not glamorous work, but honest. Necessary. I looked down at my right hand. The surgical scars ran from wrist to knuckles, raised tissue that had healed badly despite expensive surgeons. 3 operations, $68,000 in medical bills that insurance fought tooth and nail not to cover. The settlement from Sterling Productions, $75,000, just enough to clear the debt with $7,000 left over, had come with papers that said I agreed not to sue, not to talk, not to exist as anything more than a footnote in their liability reports. Richard Sterling's company had destroyed my career to save a few $1,000s on proper equipment. And now I worked in his daughter's building, fixing the toilets of people who earned in bonuses what I made in a year. Sophie emerged from the bedroom at 6:45, hair a wild tangle of dark curls, pajamas twisted from restless sleep. "Morning, Daddy. Is today the Christmas party?" "That was last night, sweetheart. You fell asleep during the car ride home." She climbed into my lap, small and warm and smelling of the strawberry shampoo we bought in bulk. "Did I miss it? Did you play piano?" "You were there for the piano part. You asked me to play, remember?" Her eyes lit up with fractured memory. "Oh, yeah. And you were so good, and everyone was quiet, and the nice lady with the pretty hair came over." My stomach tightened. "What nice lady?" "The one who let us use the fancy elevator when my knee was bleeding. She was watching you play, and she looked like she was going to cry, but happy crying, not sad crying." Out of the mouths of children. Sophie saw the world with a clarity that made lying impossible. We took the bus to Sterling Tower. Sophie pressed her nose against the window, watching the city scroll past. Bodega gates rolling up, food carts setting up for the breakfast rush, business people in their winter coats walking fast like the cold might catch them if they slowed down. This early, the bus smelled like industrial cleaner and the sweat of night shift workers heading home. Sterling Tower rose 47 stories, all glass and steel ambition. I'd helped maintain it for 3 years, knew every electrical panel, every HVAC unit, every pipe that carried water or waste through the building's guts. The structure was sound, built in the 90s when codes actually meant something. But the fixtures needed constant attention, toilets that ran, lights that flickered, thermostats that fought the seasons. I dropped Sophie at the daycare on the ground floor. The program cost $300 a week, more than my rent used to be before we moved to the smaller place. But Sarah Chen had quietly adjusted the subsidy structure 6 months ago, reclassifying maintenance staff as essential building operations to make it affordable. I didn't know that yet. I thought I'd just gotten lucky with the timing. The daycare supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, greeted Sophie with genuine warmth. "Good morning, sunshine. We're making snowflakes today." Sophie hugged my leg before running off to join the other kids. I watched her go, this piece of Rachel and me, so much braver than either of us had been at her age. 7 years old and already teaching me about courage. My supervisor, Frank Morrison, no relation to Tom, the security chief, handed me the day's work orders. 17 fluorescent tubes in the conference rooms on 12. Toilet running constantly in the women's room, 8th floor. HVAC making weird noises, 5th floor executive suite. "Hayes, we got complaints about the 5th floor temperature. CEO's assistant says it's too cold. Priority 1. Of course it was. Olivia Sterling's comfort took precedence over everything else. I grabbed my tools and headed for the elevator. The 5th floor smelled different. Fresh flowers delivered daily, expensive coffee from the private machine, leather furniture that cost more than my car. I moved through it like a ghost, gray uniform making me invisible to the well-dressed people who passed without seeing. Sarah Chen found me at the thermostat panel, checking the connections. "Thomas, right? Sophie's dad?" I nodded, keeping my eyes on the wiring. "HVAC acting up?" "The boss is cold-blooded," Sarah smiled, softening the words. "Literally. She keeps the office at 68 and wears sweaters. But she had a meeting with the board this morning, and apparently hypothermia isn't professional." I traced the control wire, found a loose connection, tightened it. "Should be good now. Might take 20 minutes to warm up." "Thank you." Sarah hesitated, then added, "She asked about you this morning." My hands stilled. "What?" "Miss Sterling. She wanted to know who played piano at the party." I told her maintenance staff, Thomas Hayes' 7-year-old daughter. She didn't say anything else, just went back to her laptop. But she looked, I don't know, haunted. I packed my tools slowly, buying time to steady my voice. "I should get to the other repairs." "Thomas?" Sarah's voice stopped me at the door. "Whatever happened last night, whatever that song meant to her, she hasn't been the same since. Just be careful." I nodded and left, heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. The memory came unbidden as I worked through the day's repairs. Summer 2010. Berkshire Summer Music Academy, 8 weeks of intensive training for high school musicians from across the country. I was there on scholarship, one of 5 kids whose families couldn't afford the $6,000 tuition. The other students arrived in expensive cars with instrument cases that cost more than my dad's funeral. I was 20, taking a gap year before college that would stretch into forever. My father had died under a car when the jack failed, crushed him while I was at school, left my mother with 2 kids and a mortgage she couldn't pay on what she made cleaning houses. My sister needed braces. I needed to eat. So I worked nights, washing dishes at the camp cafeteria, 4 hours after everyone else went to bed, scrubbing pots while my hands cramped and my back ached. Olivia Sterling arrived in a Mercedes SUV, blonde hair catching sunlight like something from a shampoo commercial. She played cello with a precision that spoke of years of private lessons, summers at other prestigious camps, parents who paid for excellence without checking the price. She was 18, confident in the way people are when they've never been told no. Daniel Cross was her boyfriend, piano prodigy, all dark hair and natural charisma, the kind of talent that made professors shake their heads in wonder. He was everything I wasn't, wealthy, connected, destined for Juilliard and concert halls, and a future that didn't involve midnight shifts in industrial kitchens. I watched Olivia from the shadows, watched her laugh at Daniel's jokes, watched her eyes light up when he played, watched her move through the world like it was designed for her comfort. And I fell in love with a kind of hopeless intensity only 20-year-olds can manage, the kind that feels like drowning and doesn't care. Daniel caught me staring one night after rehearsal. Instead of mocking or threatening, he sat down next to me on the practice room bench. "She's something, isn't she?" I couldn't deny it. "Yeah. I'm writing her a song for the end of summer concert, but I'm stuck. Got the opening, 8 bars that feel right, but I can't figure out where to take it." He played the fragment. It was good, melancholy and yearning, the kind of melody that lingers. But it ended abruptly, like a question without an answer. "What if you modulate to the relative major?" I heard myself say. "Keep the yearning, but add hope. Make it about transformation instead of just loss." Daniel's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in thought. "Show me." I played it through, adding what he'd started, taking it places he hadn't imagined. The melody swelled and ached and finally resolved into something that felt like sunrise after a long night. When I finished, my hands were shaking. "That's it." Daniel's voice was quiet. "That's the whole thing. Can I use this? Give it to her? I'll tell her you helped." "No." The word came out too fast. "You give it to her. She's yours. She should have something beautiful from you." "Are you sure?" I looked at my dishwater-wrinkled hands, at the calluses from scrubbing pots, at the stains that never quite came out of my cheap sneakers. "I'm sure. Just make her happy." Daniel performed Midnight Echo at the final concert. Elizabeth cried during it, beautiful tears that caught the stage lights. After, she kissed him in front of everyone, told him it was the most perfect thing she'd ever heard. I watched from the kitchen door and told myself it was enough, that love wasn't about possession, that I'd given her something beautiful even if she'd never know it came from me. 3 weeks later, Daniel Cross died when his car hydroplaned on a rain-slicked road outside Hartford. The song became his legacy, the last thing he'd created before the world lost him. And I went home to my mother's house and tried to forget I'd ever been anyone other than the kid who washed dishes. The toilet on 8 was an easy fix, flapper valve worn out, water running constantly. I replaced it in 15 minutes. The conference room lights took longer, required the ladder from the storage closet, careful navigation around the expensive furniture. Each tube I swapped brought the room closer to the sterile brightness executives preferred. I ate lunch in the maintenance break room, turkey sandwich I'd made that morning, apple that was starting to soften, water from the fountain because bottled was a luxury. Frank sat across from me, working on a crossword puzzle. "You play piano?" The question caught me off guard. "Used to. Heard you were pretty good at the party. Got the CEO all worked up." It was just a song. Frank studied me over his reading glasses. Just a song doesn't make Olivia Sterling cry. Woman's got ice in her veins. Seen her fire 3 executives in one meeting without blinking. But last night, she looked like she'd seen a ghost. Maybe it reminded her of something. "Yeah." Frank went back to his crossword. "That's what I'm worried about." Sophie was making construction paper snowflakes when I picked her up. She ran over with one, white paper cut into delicate patterns. "Look, Daddy, Mrs. Patterson said mine was the prettiest." I held it up to the light. "It's perfect, sweetheart. We'll hang it in the window at home. Can we stop and see the piano on the way out?" Every instinct screamed to say no, to get out of the building before Olivia appeared, before questions I couldn't answer trapped me. But Sophie's face held such innocent hope. Just for a minute. The lobby was quieter in late afternoon. Most employees had left for the day, fleeing to happy hours or suburban homes. The Steinway sat there like a monument, lid closed, untouchable. Sophie pressed one key gently, listening to the note fade. It sounds lonely. Pianos are meant to be played. Then why don't you play it more? You're so good, and it makes people happy. How do you explain fear to a 7-year-old? How do you tell her that touching those keys meant risking everything? The job, the insurance, the stability she needed. That every time I played, I was reminded of what I'd lost, what I'd never be again. It's complicated, baby. That's what grown-ups say when they're scared. Out of the mouths of children. Sophie saw through me with the clarity only kids possess before life teaches them to accept comfortable lies. We were heading for the exit when I heard her voice. Mr. Hayes? Olivia Sterling stood by the executive elevators, still in her work clothes, charcoal suit, cream blouse, heels that added 3 inches to her height. Even exhausted, she looked like money, like power, like everything I'd never have. Miss Sterling. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Could I speak with you? Privately? Sophie's hand tightened in mine. My daughter, Sarah, can watch her for a few minutes, if that's all right. It wasn't a request. Sarah appeared like she'd been waiting for this, held out her hand to Sophie. Want to see the fish tank in Miss Sterling's office? We have a blue tang named Dory. Sophie looked at me. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She went with Sarah, glancing back once with worried eyes. Olivia gestured toward a small conference room off the lobby. I followed, tools still strapped to my belt, aware of how I must look. Grease under my fingernails, uniform faded from too many washes, boots scuffed from kneeling on concrete. She closed the door behind us. The room held a table, 6 chairs, a whiteboard with someone's abandoned project plan still ghost visible. That song. She didn't sit, didn't offer small talk, just went straight to the wound. Where did you learn it? Music camp. Long time ago. Which camp? My mouth went dry. Berkshire, summer 2010. Something flickered across her face. Recognition, pain, the past becoming present. You knew Daniel. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Not well. I was kitchen staff, scholarship kid. We didn't exactly run in the same circles. But you learned his song, the one he wrote for me. I heard him practicing it. Good melody. Stuck with me. Daniel never played it for anyone before the final concert. He said it was a surprise, something special just for me. Her voice sharpened. So how did you know it well enough to play it perfectly 16 years later? The lie stuck in my throat. I'd spent 16 years hiding, protecting the truth, telling myself it didn't matter. But standing here with Olivia 3 feet away, ice blue eyes demanding honesty, I couldn't do it anymore. I should go. Sophie's waiting. Please. The word came out raw, stripped of CEO polish. That song is all I have left of him. If you know something, anything about how he wrote it, where it came from, I need to understand. Why does it matter? He wrote it. He's gone. The song remains. Isn't that enough? No. Tears threatened at the corners of her eyes. Because for 16 years, I've built my life around the memory of a boy who loved me enough to write something that beautiful. And if that was a lie, if any of it was a lie, then I don't know who I am anymore. The pain in her voice shattered something in my chest. This wasn't the CEO, the Ice Queen, the woman who'd built an empire on her father's ashes. This was the 18-year-old girl who'd lost everything when Daniel's car left the road. It wasn't a lie. The words came out before I could stop them. Daniel did write it for you. The opening, the foundation, the heart of it, that was all him. He loved you. That part was real. But I closed my eyes, felt the weight of 16 years pressing down. But he got stuck. Couldn't figure out the ending. He asked for help from another student, someone who completed it. Who? Does it matter? Yes. She stepped closer, because that person knew me through Daniel's eyes, knew what he felt, and I need to know who carried that secret all these years. The door opened before I could answer. Preston Shaw stood in the threshold, expensive suit crisp despite the late hour, smile sharp as a knife. Olivia, we have dinner reservations in 20 minutes. You're not dressed. I'm busy, Preston. With maintenance? His eyes raked over me with barely concealed contempt. Surely whatever plumbing emergency this is can wait until morning. It's not a plumbing emergency. Then what is it? Olivia's jaw tightened. A private conversation. Private. Preston moved into the room, claiming territory. I'm your fiancé. We don't have private conversations with the help. The casual cruelty in that word, help, made my hands curl into fists. But I kept my voice level. I should go. Miss Sterling, if you need anything else, submit a work order through Frank. I pushed past Preston toward the door. Behind me, I heard Olivia's voice, cold and precise. Get out, Preston. I'll meet you at the restaurant. This is about him, isn't it? About whatever happened at the party. Olivia, you can't seriously be out. Now. I didn't wait to hear more. I collected Sophie from Sarah's office. She was watching Finding Nemo on the big monitor, entranced, and headed for the exit. But at the glass doors, I couldn't help glancing back. Olivia stood alone in the conference room, hands pressed against the table, shoulders shaking with sobs she'd held back until she thought no one was watching. I should have kept walking. Should have taken my daughter home, made dinner, read bedtime stories, pretended this was just another day. But some wounds are too deep to ignore. Sophie fell asleep in the car, exhausted from the day. I carried her up the 3 flights to our apartment, tucked her into bed with her stuffed rabbit, kissed her forehead. Then I sat on the pull-out sofa and let myself remember everything. Rachel had known about the song. Not who I'd written it for, but that it existed. Our wedding night in the cheap hotel room we could barely afford, I'd hummed it while we danced to silence. She'd stopped, looked up at me with those kind brown eyes. That's beautiful. What is it? Something I wrote a long time ago. Play it for me. There was an upright piano in the hotel bar, closed for the night. I snuck down, picked the lock, a skill learned from necessity, and played Midnight Echo while Rachel listened from the doorway. When I finished, she was crying. You wrote that? Most of it. The heart of it, anyway. Who was she? I'd never said it was about a woman, but Rachel knew, the way she always knew things I didn't say. Someone I couldn't have. Someone who belonged with people better than me. Rachel crossed the room, took my scarred hands in hers. You're wrong. You're the best person I know. And whoever she was, she missed out on something extraordinary. I married Rachel, believing I could love her the way she deserved. And I did love her, genuinely, deeply, with the quiet certainty of someone grateful to be chosen. But it was different from what I'd felt for Olivia. Comfortable instead of consuming, partnership instead of passion. When the cancer came, Rachel fought for 2 years. Chemo that made her vomit until there was nothing left. Radiation that burned her skin. Experimental treatments insurance barely covered. I worked 3 jobs: warehouse day shift, maintenance night shift, weekend handyman gigs, to pay for what the insurance company called not medically necessary. She died in our bed on a Tuesday morning. Sophie was 4, asleep in the chair beside her because she wouldn't leave her mother's side. Rachel's last words to me were, "Take care of our girl. And Thomas, stop punishing yourself." If you find someone who makes you feel the way you did when you wrote that song, don't let guilt stop you. Promise me. I promised, but I never told her the song was written for someone else, for a ghost I'd loved from the shadows. 3 years of widowhood had taught me that promises to the dying are the hardest to keep. My phone buzzed at 11 p.m., unknown number. "Mr. Hayes, this is Sarah Chen. I'm sorry to call so late, but Miss Sterling asked me to give you her private number. She'd like to speak with you when you have time." "About what?" "She didn't say. But Thomas, she's been researching you all evening. I think she knows something's wrong, and when Olivia Sterling decides to find answers, she doesn't stop until she gets them." I thanked Sarah and hung up. Then I stared at the numbers she'd sent, at the 10 digits that could unravel 16 years of careful hiding. I should have deleted it, should have blocked the number, quit the job, moved to another city where Olivia Sterling's questions couldn't find me. Instead, I saved the contact and tried to sleep. The decision came at 3 a.m., watching streetlights paint patterns on the ceiling. Sophie would wake in 3 hours. I'd make breakfast, pack her lunch, take her to daycare. Then I'd submit my notice to Frank, claim a family emergency in another state, grab what we could carry, and disappear. It was cowardice, but sometimes cowardice keeps you alive. I packed 2 suitcases while Sophie slept: clothes, her favorite toys, the framed photo of Rachel holding her newborn daughter. Everything else could stay. The furniture was secondhand. The kitchen supplies came from thrift stores, none of it worth the wait. Mrs. Chen from across the hall found me loading the car at 5 a.m. She was 70-something, had watched Sophie when I worked overtime, always left casseroles outside our door when she thought we looked too thin. "Where are you going, Thomas?" "Family emergency, out of state." Her eyes, sharp despite her age, saw through the lie. "Running from something?" "Trying to protect what matters." "And what matters is in those suitcases?" I looked at Sophie's window, where she still slept, unaware her world was about to shift again. What matters is sleeping, and I need to keep her safe. Safe from what? From my mistakes. Mrs. Chen patted my arm, her hand dry and papery. "You're a good father, Thomas. But sometimes protecting our children means teaching them to be brave, not to run. What if being brave costs them everything? What if running does?" I finished loading the car without answering. Some questions don't have good answers. Sophie woke when I carried her to the car at 6:30. She blinked, confused, still half dreaming. "Daddy, where are we going?" "On an adventure, sweetheart." "What about daycare? What about your work?" "We're taking a trip, just you and me." Her bottom lip trembled. "I don't want an adventure. I like it here. I like Sarah's cookies and my friends and the nice lady CEO. "Sophie, you're running away again." The accusation hit like a fist. "What?" "Like when Mommy died, and we moved to the smaller apartment, and you said it was an adventure, but really, you were just sad and didn't want to stay where everything reminded you of her. 7 years old and already too perceptive. Rachel's daughter through and through. This is different. No, it's not. You're scared of something, and instead of fixing it, you're running away. You tell me to be brave, but you won't be. Tears streamed down her face. Not the manipulative crying kids learn to get their way, but genuine grief at losing another home, another piece of stability in a life that had already taken too much. I held her while she sobbed against my shoulder. Held her until the sun started rising, until the streetlights clicked off, until the city woke around us with sounds of delivery trucks and opening shops and people heading to jobs they couldn't afford to lose. Okay. The word came out rough. Okay, we'll stay. But Sophie, if things get complicated, if Daddy has to answer hard questions, then you be brave, like you always tell me. Out of the mouths of children. We unloaded the car together. Mrs. Chen appeared with cinnamon rolls, still warm. Didn't say anything about the packed suitcases or my red eyes. Just handed Sophie a roll and went back to her apartment. I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Frank sounded suspicious, but didn't push. I requested personal days through the end of the week. Then Sophie and I spent the day at the park, feeding ducks, watching her climb jungle gyms, pretending the world wasn't about to cave in. That night, after Sophie fell asleep, I finally looked at Olivia's number. Thumb hovering over the screen. One call, and everything would change. One call, and 16 years of hiding would end. I didn't call. But I didn't delete the number either. 2 weeks passed. I avoided Sterling Tower, avoided even driving past it, used my personal days, then claimed food poisoning, then invented a landboard inspection that needed my presence. Frank's patience was wearing thin, but he hadn't fired me yet. Sophie asked about the nice lady CEO every night, asked when we'd go back, when I'd play piano again, when things would be normal. I had no answers that weren't lies. On the 14th night, my phone rang. Olivia's number. I stared at it until voicemail picked up, listened to her message 3 times before deleting it. Mr. Hayes, this is Olivia Sterling. I know you're avoiding me. I know you have reasons. But I need to understand about the song. About Daniel. Please, just one conversation, that's all I'm asking. Her voice cracked on the last word. The Ice Queen veneer stripped away, leaving only raw need. I should have kept avoiding her. Should have quit the job, moved away, protected Sophie from whatever chaos honesty would bring. Instead, I texted back, tomorrow night, 10 p.m., lobby. The response came immediately. I'll be there. I'd spent 16 years loving Olivia Sterling from a distance. Tomorrow, I'd finally tell her the truth. And truth, I'd learned, burned everything it touched. I arrived at Sterling Tower at 9:45, early enough to second-guess everything. The lobby lights had been dimmed for the night, transforming the space into something softer, less corporate. Security nodded me through. Tom Morrison, the head guard, a former Marine with kind eyes who'd always treated maintenance staff like human beings. Working late, Hayes? Meeting someone. He didn't ask who. Maybe he already knew. Buildings have their own intelligence networks, security cameras and gossip flowing through ventilation shafts. The Steinway sat in shadow, lid closed like a secret. I touched the polished wood, felt the cool lacquer against my palm. 16 years since I'd written Midnight Echo. 12 since Cleveland destroyed my hand. 3 since Rachel died. And 2 weeks since I'd played this piano and watched my past collide with my present in Olivia Sterling's eyes. She appeared at exactly 10 p.m., descending from the executive elevator in jeans and a cashmere sweater. I'd never seen her in casual clothes. The transformation made her look younger, vulnerable, more like the 18-year-old I'd loved than the CEO who terrified her board. "You came back." The relief in her voice cut deeper than accusation would have. "I shouldn't have run. Sophie asked me why we left. I couldn't give her a good answer." "Sophie, your daughter." Olivia moved closer, footsteps careful on marble. "Sarah told me about her mother. I'm sorry." "Cancer doesn't care about sorry." Silence settled between us, heavy with everything unsaid. Then Olivia's composure cracked. "I haven't slept since the party. Every time I close my eyes, I hear that song and see Daniel's face, and nothing makes sense anymore." Her hands trembled. "Dr. Lawrence Kent came to see me, Daniel's old mentor. I played him the recording someone made of you playing." My stomach dropped. "What did he say?" "That Daniel didn't finish Midnight Echo. That he struggled with it for weeks, got stuck after the opening. That another student helped complete it." She looked at me with those ice-blue eyes, and I saw the moment she stopped guessing and started knowing. "It was you. You wrote it. Not the opening, Daniel did that, but everything that made it whole, everything that made it beautiful. You." The truth sat between us like broken glass. I could deny it, claim Kent was mistaken, grab what remained of my anonymity and run. But Sophie's words echoed. "You tell me to be brave, but you won't be." Yes, it was me. Olivia's knees buckled. She gripped the piano to steady herself, color draining from her face. "Why? Why would you do that? Why let him take credit?" "Because he loved you and I was nobody." The words came out rougher than I intended. Just some kid who played piano between washing dishes. Daniel was everything. Talented, wealthy, destined for greatness. You belonged with someone like him. So you wrote him a love song to give to me? I wrote you a love song. Daniel just delivered it. Her breath caught. You didn't even know me. I knew enough. Knew you laughed at his jokes. Knew you played cello like you were having a conversation with God. Knew the way light caught your hair during afternoon rehearsals. I forced myself to meet her eyes. Knew I could never be what you needed. What I needed? Olivia's voice sharpened with something between anger and anguish. What makes you think you knew what I needed? Because I saw how you looked at Daniel, like he hung the stars. And I saw how you didn't look at me at all. I didn't know you existed. Exactly. The single word carried 16 years of resignation. You were supposed to be with someone brilliant, someone who fit in your world. I was the scholarship kid who smelled like industrial soap and couldn't afford new shoes. Love doesn't fix that kind of distance. Olivia stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. You've been in love with me for 16 years? It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes. And you never said anything? Never reached out after Daniel died? Never tried to tell me the song was yours? Just, what? Watched from the shadows while I built my whole identity around a lie? It wasn't a lie. Daniel loved you. The song was his gift, even if I helped finish it. And after he died, my throat closed around the words. You had something beautiful to hold on to. Why would I take that away? Because it was yours. It was never mine. I gave it away the moment Daniel asked if he could use it. Love isn't about ownership, Olivia. Sometimes it's about giving people what they need, even when it costs you everything. She turned away, shoulders shaking. When she spoke again, her voice was barely audible. For 16 years, I've measured every relationship against what I had with Daniel. Every man I've dated, every decision I've made, every time I've chosen work over feeling, it's all been because I thought I'd already experienced the greatest love of my life and lost it. She spun back to face me, tears streaming. And now you're telling me that love was built on the song written by a stranger who loved me from a distance? That the most perfect thing anyone ever gave me came from someone I never even noticed? The pain in her accusation made my chest ache. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for loving me. Apologize for hiding it. I hid it to protect you from my mistakes, from the fact that your father's company destroyed any chance I had at the life Daniel was supposed to live. Olivia froze. What? Too late to pull back now. The wound was open. Might as well show her how deep it went. 3 years after that summer, I signed a contract with Sterling Productions. Regional concert series, 20 cities, my name finally on posters. Opening night in Cleveland, I showed up early for rehearsal. Stage crew was rigging lights. My right hand curled involuntarily, muscle memory of pain 12 years old. There was a cellist directly under the truss. Young woman, maybe 19. Juilliard scholarship, whole future ahead of her. The rigging started to fall. Metal fatigue, substandard equipment someone approved to save a few $1,000s on a multi-million-dollar tour. Olivia's face went white. She knew where this was headed. I pushed her out of the way. Got my hand caught when half a ton of steel came down. Bones pulverized like crushing an egg in your fist. 3 surgeries couldn't fix the nerve damage. Doctor said I'd never play professionally again. I held up my scarred palm so she could see the spiderweb patterns where surgical steel had tried and failed. Your father's company paid me $75,000. Medical bills were $68,000. Contract was terminated 2 weeks after I left the hospital. Investigation concluded it was cost-cutting gone wrong. Equipment approved despite safety violations. Oh, God. Olivia's whisper barely registered. Oh, my God. So I learned to fix the things that break. The broken pianist fixing broken pipes. Seemed fitting. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Contact would shatter what remained of my composure. Did you know? My voice came out flat, emotionless, the only way to ask without screaming. When you took this job, did you know who I was? What your company did? No. She looked stricken. Sterling Productions was sold and folded into the larger corporation before I took over. I never... Thomas, I swear I didn't know. But you benefited from it. This building, this empire, everything you've built. It's standing on the foundation of people your father crushed to maximize profit margins. I know. The admission came out broken. I've known for years that Richard Sterling made his fortune by treating people as expendable. I told myself I was different, that I ran things ethically, that the sins of the father didn't transfer to the daughter. Her laugh held no humor. But you're right. I built my life on blood money. And the cruelest joke is that the man whose career my father destroyed has been working in my building for 3 years, maintaining the toilets of people who make in bonuses what you make in a year. I needed the job. Benefits, health insurance, stability for Sophie. After Rachel got sick, my voice cracked. After she died and left me with a 4-year-old and medical debt that bankruptcy barely covered, I couldn't afford to be proud. Rachel, your wife. Olivia's tone gentled. Tell me about her. The question surprised me. Why? Because you loved someone else. Because you had a whole life I know nothing about. Because if I'm going to understand how we got here, I need to know everything. So I told her about meeting Rachel at a community health clinic 9 years ago when I was trying to find affordable physical therapy for my hand. About her practical kindness, her ability to see past the damage to something worth saving. About the small wedding at City Hall, Sophie's birth during a blizzard, Rachel delivering our daughter in our bathroom because the ambulance couldn't reach us in time. About the diagnosis 2 years later, stage 3 breast cancer, aggressive, unforgiving. About working 3 jobs while Rachel underwent chemo that made her vomit until there was nothing left, radiation that burned her skin, experimental treatments insurance companies called not medically necessary. She died in our bed on a Tuesday morning. Sophie was asleep in the chair beside her because she wouldn't leave her mother's side. Rachel made me promise to take care of our girl and... I paused, the next words sticking in my throat. And to stop punishing myself. She said if I ever found someone who made me feel the way I did when I wrote that song, I shouldn't let guilt stop me. She knew about Midnight Echo? Knew I'd written something for someone else. Didn't know who. On our wedding night, I played it for her, and she just understood. That's who Rachel was. She loved me anyway. Olivia sank onto the piano bench, overwhelmed. You've been carrying all of this alone. Sophie carries half of it. She's braver than I'll ever be. Why did you stay? After you figured out I was Richard Sterling's daughter, why didn't you quit? The question had haunted me for 3 years. Because I'm a coward. Because seeing you from a distance was better than not seeing you at all. Because maybe in some pathetic way, fixing things in your building could make up for not being able to fix what really mattered. You're not a coward. You saved a woman's life at the cost of your career. You worked 3 jobs to keep your wife alive. You're raising Sophie alone while maintaining your dignity in a system designed to grind people like you into dust. Olivia's voice turned fierce. That's not cowardice. That's heroism without an audience. Heroism doesn't pay the rent. No, but it matters more than you think. She stood, moved closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something expensive and subtle that probably cost more than my weekly groceries. This close, I could see the exhaustion in her face, the fine lines stress had carved around her eyes. I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Haven't I been honest enough for one night? Did you manipulate your way into this job? Plan to use our connection, the song, any of it, for leverage or revenge? The question should have offended me. Instead, I just felt tired. I applied for an opening that offered benefits. Didn't make the connection to Sterling Productions until I saw your name on the directory. By then, I'd already accepted the position, and Sophie needed the daycare subsidy. I met her eyes. I stayed because I needed the work. Not because of you, not because of revenge, just survival. She studied my face like she was reading a contract for loopholes. Whatever she found must have satisfied her because she nodded slowly. Okay, I believe you. Just like that? You've had 3 years to leverage what you know. 3 years to go to the press, file lawsuits, make my life difficult. You didn't. That tells me more than words can. A phone buzzed. Olivia pulled hers from her pocket, frowned at the screen. Preston. Third time he's called tonight. Your fiancé. You should answer. My fiancé is a mistake I'm about to correct. The certainty in her voice surprised me. Because of the song? Because I've spent the last 2 weeks researching you, Thomas Hayes. Or trying to. You're remarkably invisible. No social media, minimal digital footprint, like you're trying to disappear. But I found enough. Found the contract with Sterling Productions. Found the accident report listing you as injured, but no follow-up. Found the settlement agreement that paid you just enough to clear medical debt and nothing more. She tapped her phone screen, pulled up documents I'd hoped were buried. Found Preston's financials, or rather, what my forensic accountants found when I asked them to dig deeper into the merger he's been pushing. My confusion must have shown because she continued. Preston Shaw has been embezzling from his investment firm for 18 months. $42 million hidden in shell companies and false projections. The merger he's so eager for? It's not about building an empire. It's about accessing Sterling Capital accounts to cover his theft before investors notice. Jesus. The wedding was never about love. It was about him buying time to hide evidence. She laughed bitterly. And I almost fell for it. Almost married a criminal because I was too frozen emotionally to recognize when someone was using me. What are you going to do? Report him to the SEC, cancel the wedding, face my board, and probably tank the stock price when news breaks. Maybe lose everything. The matter-of-fact way she said it, like she was discussing quarterly projections instead of her life imploding, was vintage Olivia Sterling. Ice Queen armor still in place even when the castle was burning. You don't have to do this. You could handle it quietly. Salvage the merger. Protect your position. I could. My father would have. Richard Sterling built his empire on making problems disappear through settlements and NDAs. But I'm not him. I won't be him. Her phone buzzed again. This time she answered, voice cold enough to freeze water. Preston, I'm busy. His voice came through tinny, but loud. Busy with what? I know you're at the building. Security saw you arrive. What the hell is so important it can't wait until morning? I'm having a conversation. With who? That's not your concern. Everything about you is my concern. We're getting married in 2 weeks, Olivia. Start acting like it. Her jaw tightened. Actually, we're not. The wedding is off. The merger is off. And I'm reporting your financial irregularities to federal authorities in the morning. You should probably contact a lawyer. Silence on the other end. Then, you're bluffing. Am I? Ask yourself if you've ever seen me bluff about business. If you do this, I'll make sure everyone knows about your inappropriate relationship with a maintenance worker. Those photos I have of you two talking, they'll be on every business blog by noon. Your board will force you out within a week. Then I guess I'll have plenty of time to testify at your trial. She hung up. Her hand shook slightly as she lowered the phone. He's going to make this ugly. Ugly is my specialty. Let him try. Olivia, you don't understand what you're risking. Your reputation, your company, everything you've built. Built on what? She turned to face me fully. On my father's blood money? On pretending I don't see the cost of quarterly profits? On marrying a criminal because I was too afraid to feel anything real? Tears streamed down her face, mascara smearing, the Ice Queen facade finally shattered beyond repair. You wrote me a love song 16 years ago and asked for nothing. You saved a stranger's life and lost your career. You worked yourself to exhaustion to keep your wife alive. You're raising Sophie alone while fixing toilets for people who don't see you as human. She grabbed my scarred hand, held it between both of hers. And I'm the CEO who profits from the system that crushed you? So forgive me if I'm not particularly concerned about protecting my empire. Maybe it's time to burn it down and build something honest instead. You don't mean that. Don't I? What's the point of power if it makes you complicit in destroying good people? What's success worth if it requires becoming your father? Her phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it, face darkening. Preston's on his way here, with his lawyers. Claims he has evidence that I've been embezzling, that I'm trying to frame him. That's insane. It's strategic. He's going to try to flip the narrative before I can expose him. She looked at me with sudden urgency. Thomas, you should go. When this turns into a legal battle, anyone connected to me becomes a target. Preston will use Sophie against you, claim you're an unfit father involved with your boss, try to destroy you to hurt me. I'm not running. This isn't running. It's protecting your daughter from my mess. Sophie's the one who told me to stop running. Said I teach her to be brave, but won't be brave myself. I moved closer, close enough to see gold flecks in her blue eyes. I've spent 16 years loving you in silence. I think I can manage a little courage now. The elevator chimed. Preston emerged with two men in expensive suits, lawyers probably, the kind that cost $1,000 an hour. He spotted us and his face went red with rage. This is what you're throwing everything away for? A janitor? Tom Morrison materialized from the security station, hand resting casually near his radio. Mr. Shaw, it's after hours. I need to see your building access credentials. I'm the fiancé of the CEO. I don't need credentials. Former fiancé. And yeah, you do. Building policy. Preston turned to his lawyers. Tell me can't prevent me from seeing my fiancé. The taller lawyer, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, intervened smoothly. Ms. Sterling, I'm Robert Chen with Morrison & Associates. We represent Mr. Shaw's interests. He's asked us to mediate this situation before it escalates unnecessarily. There's nothing to mediate. I've made my decision. Perhaps we could speak privately, without... His gaze flicked to me with barely concealed disdain. Without third parties present. Thomas stays. Ms. Sterling, we have documentation that suggests serious financial improprieties at Sterling Capital. Transfers that only someone with CEO-level access could authorize. Before you make accusations against Mr. Shaw, you should review the evidence we've compiled. Olivia's expression never changed. Show me. The lawyer produced a tablet, pulled up spreadsheets showing wire transfers from Sterling Capital accounts to offshore holdings, dates, amounts, authorization codes, all pointing to Olivia as the source. These are fabricated. Are they? Because we have emails with your digital signature approving each transfer. We have login records showing access from your office computer. We have enough to convince federal investigators that you've been embezzling for over a year. This is what you do? Olivia's voice could have cut steel. When caught stealing, you forge evidence to frame someone else? Preston stepped forward, smile sharp. I'm not stealing anything, but you clearly are. And when the SEC investigates, they'll find that you've been siphoning money to pay off your maintenance worker lover. Buying his silence about your father's crimes, maybe. or just keeping him comfortable while you play working-class hero? He turned to me, contempt naked in his eyes. How much has she paid you, Hayes? 50,000? 100? Must be nice, cashing in on a tragedy from 12 years ago. My hands curled into fists. Tom Morrison moved closer, ready to intervene if I swung. Mr. Shaw, you need to leave now. I'm not going anywhere until, yeah, you are. Tom's voice carried the quiet authority of someone who'd seen combat. Miss Sterling has asked you to leave. Building security is enforcing her request. You can go voluntarily, or I can call NYPD and have you escorted for trespassing. Preston's lawyers exchanged glances. The silver-haired one spoke again. Miss Sterling, we'll be filing emergency motions in the morning to freeze Sterling Capital accounts, pending investigation of the alleged fraud. We'll also be requesting immediate board review of your fitness to serve as CEO. Do what you need to do. I'll be filing my own motions exposing Preston's actual embezzlement. May the best evidence win. They left under Tom's watchful eye. When the elevator doors closed, Olivia's shoulders sagged like puppet strings cut. They're going to make this a nightmare. Drag it through the courts for months, leak damaging stories to the press, turn my own board against me. Can you prove the evidence is fake? Eventually, but the damage will be done by then. Investors hate uncertainty. Stock price will tank. Board will probably force me out regardless of guilt. She sank onto the piano bench, head in her hands. I should have kept my mouth shut. Married Preston, completed the merger, played the game the way my father taught me. I sat beside her, close but not touching. Your father's game destroyed people, including me. You really want to win by his rules? Winning by honest rules might cost me everything. Everything you built on his foundation. Maybe it's time to start over with something clean. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much, aged a decade in 2 weeks. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's just necessary. I thought about Rachel on her deathbed, about Sophie asking why I was running, about 16 years of hiding. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. Is that what this is? The right thing? I don't know, but it's honest. That's more than you had with Preston. We sat in silence, the building settling around us with creaks and mechanical hums. Outside, the city never slept, sirens wailing, late-night traffic, the constant urban heartbeat. What happens now? Olivia's question hung in the air between us. You fight. Expose Preston's fraud, defend yourself against his counterattack. Face your board with the truth. And you? I keep showing up for work if they'll let me. Keep taking care of Sophie. Keep being someone she can be proud of. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. Without Sophie, I would have given up years ago. Olivia's hand found mine, fingers tracing the scars on my palm with careful gentleness. Does it still hurt? Sometimes. Cold weather makes it ache. Playing piano too long causes cramping. But it works well enough for what I need. You could have been great. Concert halls, recordings, everything Daniel was supposed to have. Maybe. Or maybe I would have burned out young. Another cautionary tale about talent without discipline. We'll never know. Don't you resent it? The future you lost? I thought about Cleveland, about the cellist who'd gone on to play with the Boston Symphony, about the choice I'd make again without hesitation. I resent the negligence that made the choice necessary. But the choice itself? No. I saved a life. That matters more than applause. You're a better person than I am. You're fighting a criminal fiancé and a corrupt system instead of taking the easy path. You're better than you give yourself credit for. She leaned against my shoulder, exhaustion finally catching up. I'm terrified, Thomas. Of losing the company, of disappointing my board, of proving my father right about me being too soft for this world. Being soft isn't weakness, it's humanity. Your father mistook cruelty for strength. He built an empire and died alone in Palm Springs with a daughter who can't stand a visit. That's not success. That's tragedy. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. I should go. Sophie's with Mrs. Chen, but I don't like leaving her overnight. Will I see you again? The question carried weight beyond the words. Do you want to? Yes. God help me, yes. Even though it's complicated and messy and probably career suicide to date the maintenance worker while fighting embezzlement charges. I'm not asking you to date me. I'm not asking for anything. What if I want to give you something anyway? I stood, creating necessary distance. Olivia, you're in the middle of a crisis. You're angry at Preston, shaken by what you learned about the song, dealing with your father's legacy. Don't make decisions about us based on that. What if my decision isn't based on crisis? What if it's based on 16 years of being emotionally frozen and finally thawing enough to feel something real? Then wait. Let the crisis pass. Fight your battles. Figure out who you are without your father's company defining you. And if you still feel something after the dust settles, I paused at the lobby doors. Then maybe we can figure out what this is. I walked out into the November cold, leaving her sitting at the piano where I'd played Midnight Echo and watched my past collide with my present. Mrs. Chen was dozing on my couch when I got home, late-night television casting blue light across her face. She woke when I entered, gave me a knowing look. Everything okay? Honestly, I have no idea. The girl asleep in there needs you steady. Whatever else is happening, remember that. I will. After Mrs. Chen left, I checked on Sophie, sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight, and stood in her doorway watching her breathe. 7 years old, and already teaching me about courage. Rachel's daughter through and through. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for staying. Thank you for teaching me what love looks like when it's not about ownership. I didn't respond. Some messages didn't need answers. The next week brought the storm Olivia predicted. News broke about the canceled merger, Preston's fraud investigation, allegations of financial impropriety at Sterling Capital. The business press had a field day, think pieces about dynasty collapse, opinion columns debating CEO accountability, breathless speculation about Sterling's future. Someone leaked photos of Olivia and me talking in the lobby. Nothing scandalous, just two people in conversation, but the headlines wrote themselves. Embattled CEO's secret relationship, and Sterling Capital chief accused of affair with employee. Frank called me into his office 3 days into the media frenzy. Hayes, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Are you involved with Ms. Sterling? No. We had a conversation about something personal, that's all. Because the board is concerned about impropriety. They're asking questions about your employment, how you got hired, whether there was preferential treatment. I applied for an open position 3 years ago, got hired because I'm good at fixing things. No special treatment, no relationship, just work. Frank studied me the way he'd study a complicated wiring diagram. Okay, I believe you. but the board's talking about termination to distance the company from negative press. I'm fighting it, but I can't make promises. I understand. That night, Olivia called. I heard Frank might fire you. Thomas, I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I warned you about. It's not your fault. It is my fault. Everything about this situation is my fault. My father's company, Preston's fraud, the media circus? Stop. You didn't cause any of this. You're just refusing to cover it up the way Richard Sterling would have. Small comfort when you're losing your job because of me. I haven't lost it yet. And even if I do, I'll find something else. I've survived worse. Silence on her end, then. I miss you. Is that crazy? We had one real conversation and I miss you. It's not crazy. It's just complicated. Everything worthwhile is complicated. Dr. Lawrence Kent contacted me a week later, left a voicemail saying he needed to discuss something important. I called back warily. Thomas, I owe you an apology. I should have corrected the record about Midnight Echo years ago. Should have insisted Daniel share credit. Should have fought harder for you to be recognized. It's ancient history, Dr. Kent. Maybe. But there's something else. I've been researching new microsurgical techniques at Johns Hopkins. Nerve reconstruction for old crush injuries. They've had promising results with patients told their damage was permanent. My heart stuttered. I was told 3 times surgery couldn't fix this. 12 years ago, that was probably true. But medical technology advances. This new procedure has a 70% success rate for meaningful improvement. Not full restoration, but enough functionality to perform again. Perform. Piano, teaching, maybe even concert work if the reconstruction is successful. It's experimental, but covered under Sterling Capital's health plan as innovative treatment. I looked at my scarred hand, at 12 years of accepting limitation. Why are you telling me this? Because talent like yours doesn't disappear, and because you deserve a second chance at what Richard Sterling's negligence took away. That night I told Sophie about the possibility of surgery. Her eyes went wide. You mean you could play like before? Like in the videos Grandma Rachel had? Maybe. Maybe not. The surgery might not work, and even if it does, my hand will never be exactly what it was. But you'd try? You'd be brave? Out of the mouths of children. Yeah, sweetheart. I'd try. The board meeting happened 3 weeks after Midnight Echo changed everything. Sarah sent me updates via text. Olivia presenting evidence of Preston's embezzlement. Board members arguing about liability and optics. Richard Sterling flying in from Palm Springs to defend his protege. The vote came down 7-5 in Olivia's favor. Preston was reported to federal authorities. The merger was terminated. But the board imposed strict oversight, monthly audits, outside consultants, complete financial transparency, and they demanded full documentation of any relationship between CEO and staff, with immediate termination for both parties if impropriety was found. Olivia called that night, voice raw from hours of arguing. I won. Sort of. I heard. Congratulations. Doesn't feel like winning. My father didn't speak to me after the vote. Just walked out. Preston's lawyers are already spinning this as corporate witch hunting. Stock price dropped 11%. But you stopped a criminal and protected your company's integrity. That counts for something. Tell that to the investors I've pissed off. Fuck the investors. You did the right thing. She laughed, startled. Did Thomas Hayes just curse? Sometimes the situation calls for it. Can I see you? Not at the building, somewhere neutral. We met at a diner 3 blocks from my apartment, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that came in infinite refills. Olivia looked exhausted, wearing jeans and a sweater, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Without the CEO armor, she looked younger, more vulnerable, more like the girl I'd loved 16 years ago. "This place has good pie," I gestured at the menu. Preston would never eat anywhere without white tablecloths. "Preston's an asshole. Preston's going to prison if the federal investigation finds what I think it will." She ordered coffee, added cream and sugar, small details I'd never known about her. My father called me a traitor, said I destroyed everything he built for a maintenance worker. He's wrong. Is he? I just tanked the stock price and imposed oversight that'll make expansion difficult. All because I couldn't let Preston's crimes slide. And because those crimes would have destroyed innocent investors when they eventually came to light. You protected people, Olivia. That's not betrayal. She stirred her coffee, watching cream swirl into brown patterns. Dr. Kent told me about the surgery, the nerve reconstruction. He called you? Called to apologize for not speaking up 16 years ago. Mentioned he'd contacted you about Johns Hopkins. Her eyes found mine. Are you going to do it? Sophie wants me to. Says I should be brave. And what do you want? Honestly, I'm terrified. What if the surgery fails and my hand ends up worse? What if it succeeds, but I'm too old, too out of practice to actually perform? What if it works and you get back what was stolen from you? The possibility hung between us, fragile and dangerous. I've built a life around limitation, learned to be the guy who fixes pipes instead of the guy who plays concert halls. Starting over at 36 feels impossible. Starting over is always impossible until you do it. She reached across the table, took my scarred hand in both of hers. I'm starting over, rebuilding my company without my father's influence, figuring out who I am separate from his legacy. It's terrifying and liberating, and some days I want to quit and run away. But you don't. But I don't. Because Sophie's right. Being brave means doing scary things anyway. She smiled, tired but genuine. So do the surgery. Let Hopkins try to fix what my father broke. And whatever happens, I'll be there. Olivia, I know what the board said, no relationships between CEO and staff. But I'm not asking to be your girlfriend or make some grand declaration. I'm just saying. She paused, choosing words carefully. I'm saying I've spent 16 years frozen. And you thawed something I thought was dead. So whether you're playing piano or fixing toilets, whether we can publicly be together or have to wait until one of us changes jobs, I want to know you. Really know you. That's the most terrifying thing anyone's ever said to me. Good. Means you're still alive enough to be scared. We sat in that diner until the waitress kicked us out at closing, talking about everything and nothing, building something fragile and honest between the ruins of our broken histories. The surgery was scheduled for July 15th at Johns Hopkins. 8 hours of microsurgical reconstruction, Doctor. Patricia Moreno, leading a team of specialists who'd spent months reviewing my case files, mapping nerve pathways, planning their approach with military precision. Sophie helped me pack the night before. She folded clothes with careful concentration, tongue poking out the way Rachel's used to when she focused on difficult tasks. Daddy, what if your hand gets all better and you become famous? I won't be famous, sweetheart. Even if the surgery works perfectly, I'm 36 years old. Concert pianists peak younger. But you could teach, like Dr. Kent. He teaches and people respect him. Maybe. Let's see if I can play it all first. She placed my toiletries bag in the suitcase with precision. The nice lady's CEO is coming to visit, right? Ms. Sterling will be there, yes. She's taking time off work to help us. Because she loves you. The casual certainty in Sophie's voice made my chest tighten. It's complicated, baby. No, it's not. She looks at you like Mommy used to look at you, happy and sad at the same time. Out of the mouths of children, 7 years old and already seeing what I was too afraid to acknowledge. Olivia met us at Penn Station the next morning. She'd rented a car, sleek black sedan that probably cost more per day than my monthly rent, and insisted on driving us to Baltimore. The board's oversight committee had questioned her taking personal time during the Preston investigation, but she told them point blank that micromanaging her calendar was outside their purview. Sophie fell asleep in the back seat 20 minutes into the drive, leaving Olivia and me in the bubble of highway silence. You don't have to do this. Sarah could have driven us, or I could have taken the train. I want to be here. She kept her eyes on the road, hands at 10 and 2, like she was taking a driver's test. Besides, someone needs to keep you from running away at the last minute. I'm not going to run. You ran from the Christmas party, from our first conversation, from every difficult thing for 3 years. I came back because Sophie made you. She glanced at me, expression softening. Which is exactly why I'm here. To be your Sophie when the fear gets too loud. Johns Hopkins sprawled across East Baltimore like a medical empire. Dozens of buildings, thousands of staff, the kind of institutional weight that came from a century of saving lives. Dr. Moreno met us in the pre-op consultation room, a woman in her 50s with steady hands and eyes that had seen every kind of damage. Mr. Hayes, I want to be clear about expectations. This procedure has a 70% success rate for meaningful improvement, but meaningful varies wildly between patients. Some regain near full dexterity, others see marginal gains, and there's always risk of making things worse. I understand. Your nerve damage is extensive and 12 years old. Scar tissue is formed, pathways have atrophied. We'll be rebuilding from compromised foundation. She pulled up imaging on her tablet, showed me the ghost map of my hand's interior. See these gaps? Where nerve signals should flow? We're essentially creating new roads through terrain that's hostile to construction. Sophie leaned forward, studying the images with intense focus. But you can fix it? We can try. Your dad's been doing physical therapy for 3 months to prepare the tissue. He's in the best possible shape for this surgery. But I won't lie to a smart young lady. There are no guarantees. He's brave, though, even when he's scared. Dr. Moreno smiled. That's the only kind of bravery that counts. They took me into pre-op at noon. Olivia held my left hand, the undamaged one, while nurses started IVs and checked vitals. Sophie kissed my forehead, whispered that she loved me, let Sarah Chen guide her to the waiting room with promises of vending machine snacks and Finding Nemo on her tablet. I'll be here when you wake up. Olivia's voice stayed steady, but her hand trembled in mine. You should go back to New York. The board can function without me for 3 days. You're more important. I'm your maintenance worker. You're the man who wrote me a love song 16 years ago and taught me what honesty looks like. That makes you more important than any board meeting. The anesthesiologist administered sedation through my IV. The room started to blur, sounds becoming distant. Olivia, shh, sleep. I'll be here. I went under thinking about Midnight Echo, about 16 years of silence, about Sophie's face when I'd promised to be brave. Waking up was agony. My right hand felt like it was on fire, nerves screaming as they tried to reconnect through surgical reconstruction. Pain medication dulled it to a manageable roar, but couldn't erase it entirely. Olivia was there, asleep in the chair beside my bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Sunlight slanted through hospital blinds, marking early morning. She must have stayed all night. "Hey." My voice came out rough, throat raw from intubation. She jerked awake, eyes finding mine with desperate relief. "Hey yourself. How do you feel?" Like someone took my hand apart and put it back together wrong. "Dr. Moreno says the surgery went well, better than expected. They were able to reconnect nerve pathways they didn't think were salvageable." "That doesn't mean they'll work." "No, but it means there's hope." Sophie burst through the door at 7 a.m., Mrs. Chen trailing apologetically. "They said visiting hours didn't start until 8, but she insisted—" "It's fine." I managed a smile for my daughter. "Hey, sweetheart." She climbed carefully onto the bed, avoiding my bandaged hand, and pressed her face against my shoulder. "You're okay. Sarah said you'd be okay, but I needed to see." "I'm okay. Surgery's done. Now comes the hard part, waiting to see if it worked." "It worked. I know it did." Her faith was absolute, terrifying in its certainty. What if the surgery failed? What if I'd raised her hopes only to crush them when my hand stayed broken? Recovery was brutal. 4 hours daily of physical therapy, exercises that made me sweat and curse and question why I'd agreed to this. The therapist, a sadist named Marcus who looked like he bench-pressed cars for fun, pushed me to the edge of tolerance and then slightly beyond. "Range of motion is good. Grip strength is returning faster than expected. Can you feel this?" He pressed something sharp against my palm. "Yeah, hurts like hell." "Good. Pain means nerves are working. Try to flex each finger independently." I focused on my index finger, willing it to move. It twitched. Just a tremor, but movement I hadn't managed in 12 years. Holy shit. That's the spirit. Again. Slower this time. By week 2, I could move all 5 fingers independently. By week 3, I could hold a pencil. By week 4, Dr. Moreno cleared me to start piano exercises, nothing complex, just basic scales and finger patterns to rebuild muscle memory. Olivia rented an apartment near the hospital for the recovery period, claimed she was working remotely, but I saw her in video calls with the board, defending decisions, managing the Preston investigation fallout, running her empire from a laptop in a Baltimore rental. Sophie thrived. She'd made friends with other kids in the hospital, children facing surgeries far more serious than mine, fighting cancer and congenital defects with the casual heroism of the young. She came back from the pediatric ward one afternoon, somber and thoughtful. "Daddy, there's a girl here who needs a new heart. She's 8, and she might not get one in time." "That's very sad, baby." It made me think about Mommy, about how some things doctors can't fix. She climbed into my lap, carefully, always careful of my healing hand. "But they fixed you, so maybe they'll fix her too." "Maybe." "Do you think Mommy would be happy you got the surgery?" The question caught me off guard. "Why do you ask?" "Because sometimes I think maybe you didn't want to get better. Like staying broken was how you remembered her." Jesus. 7 years old and already cutting through my bullshit with surgical precision. Mommy wanted me to be happy, to live my life fully. Getting the surgery honors her memory more than staying broken ever could. And loving Ms. Sterling? Does that honor Mommy too? I don't... Sophie, it's complicated. You keep saying that, but it's not complicated. Mommy's gone. She's not coming back. And Ms. Sterling is here, and she makes you smile the way you used to smile at Mommy. You're okay with that? Me caring about someone who isn't your mother? Sophie's brown eyes, Rachel's eyes, held wisdom beyond her years. Mommy told me before she died that you were going to be very sad, that I should be patient with you because grief makes people forget how to be happy. But she said eventually you'd remember, and when you did, I should be happy for you. Tears stung my eyes. When did she tell you this? The last morning, when you were asleep in the chair and she woke me up early. She said she had important things to tell me before she got too tired. Sophie's voice wavered. She said to tell you it's okay, that she wants you to find love again, that you deserve to be happy. I held my daughter while we both cried, mourning Rachel again, grateful for her gift of permission neither of us realized we'd needed. At 6 weeks, Dr. Moreno ran comprehensive tests: nerve conductivity, range of motion, grip strength, fine motor control. She studied the results with the careful neutrality of someone who'd learned not to promise miracles. 78% functionality compared to pre-injury baseline. That's exceptional for the level of damage you sustained. 78%. Is that enough to perform? That depends on your definition of perform. Concert-level virtuosity? Probably not. Teaching? Absolutely. Playing for personal enjoyment and moderate professional work? Very likely. She pulled up comparison scans, showed me the before and after of my hand's internal landscape. These pathways we reconstructed are functioning beautifully. You'll never have the speed and precision you had at 20, but you have enough to make meaningful music. The question is whether you're willing to redefine what success looks like. That night, Olivia found me at the apartment's piano, an upright rental she'd arranged, claiming the building had it in storage. I sat at the keys but hadn't touched them yet. You've been staring at it for 20 minutes. What if I try and fail? What if the surgery was successful, but I'm too damaged psychologically to actually play? She sat beside me on the bench. Then you'll know. And knowing is better than wondering. Is it? You tell me. You spent 16 years wondering about the song, about whether I'd recognize it, about what would happen if we met again. Was wondering better than knowing? Knowing destroyed both our lives. Knowing freed both our lives. She took my right hand gently, traced the surgical scars that overlaid the old ones. We were both living in prisons we'd built from grief and fear and obligation. The song opened the doors. What we do with freedom is up to us. I placed my hands on the keys, felt the familiar ivory beneath my fingers, started with middle C, just one note, held until it faded. Then D, then a simple C major scale, ascending and descending. The sound was rough, unpracticed, but it was music. Real music, coming from hands I'd thought were finished. Sophie appeared in the doorway, eyes wide. Keep going, Daddy. I played Midnight Echo. Not the virtuoso version from 16 years ago, not even the damaged but determined version from the Christmas party. This was something new, halting, imperfect, honest. Every note cost effort. Some passages I had to simplify, others I played too slowly. But it was beautiful anyway. Beautiful because it was true. When I finished, Sophie was crying, Olivia was crying, I was crying. That's it. My voice came out rough. That's what hope sounds like when it survives impossible odds. Dr. Kent flew down to Baltimore 2 days later. He listened to me play, made notes, offered technical corrections with the precision of someone who'd spent 50 years teaching. You'll never be Daniel Cross. You'll never have the flash and speed he had. But you have something he never developed: emotional depth. You play like someone who's lived, who's suffered, who's earned every note. Is that enough? Thomas, I've taught hundreds of students. Most had more raw talent than you'll ever recover. But talent without life experience produces technically perfect music that's spiritually empty. What you're playing now, that's the kind of music that changes people. He handed me a folder. There's a benefit concert in December. Scholarship fund we've established in Daniel Cross and Thomas Hayes' names. I want you to perform. I'm not ready. You're more ready than you think. And the students we're raising money for need to see that success isn't just about perfect technique. They need to see someone who rebuilt themselves from catastrophe and still makes beauty. Olivia had been quiet during Kent's visit, but after he left, she exploded. You have to do it. You have to perform at that concert. I can barely play intermediate pieces without mistakes. So make mistakes. Show people that perfection isn't the point. Show them that getting back up matters more than never falling down. Easy for you to say. You're not the one who will be humiliated in front of 500 people. No, I'm just the one who stood in front of her board and admitted her fiancé was a criminal while they decided whether to keep me as CEO. We've both got skin in the game here. The Preston investigation had concluded in September. Federal prosecutors charged him with embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy. His lawyer tried to implicate Olivia, but forensic accounting proved the evidence against her was fabricated. Preston took a plea deal, 15 years minimum, testified against 2 accomplices to avoid 25. Richard Sterling never apologized. Sent Olivia an email saying she'd destroyed a valuable business relationship for emotional reasons. She'd replied with a single line: I destroyed a criminal enterprise for ethical reasons. There's a difference. They hadn't spoken since. How do you handle it? I asked. Your father essentially disowning you. By remembering that his approval came with conditions I'm not willing to meet. He wanted a daughter who'd compromise ethics for profit. I wanted a father who valued people over margins. We both wanted things the other couldn't give. Do you miss him? I miss the idea of him, the father I thought I had when I was young, before I understood that his love was transactional. She leaned against me, head on my shoulder. But I don't miss the real Richard Sterling. That man never existed except in my imagination. September brought me back to New York and Sterling Tower. Frank welcomed me back with visible relief. Board wanted to terminate you during the Preston mess. I told them good maintenance workers were harder to find than they thought. Plus, wrongful termination lawsuit waiting to happen. Thanks for going to bat for me. Thanks Sarah Chen. She's the one who documented that you were hired on merit 3 years ago, that there was no preferential treatment, that you're damn good at your job. Board couldn't argue with the file she built. The building felt different. Or maybe I felt different. I still fixed toilets and changed light bulbs and maintained HVAC systems, but now employees nodded when I passed. Word had spread about the surgery, about the concert in December, about the CEO who'd risked everything to expose fraud. Tom Morrison pulled me aside one afternoon. Hayes, I need to ask you something personal. Are you and Miss Sterling actually involved? We're friends. That's not what I asked. I met his eyes, military to working class, the honesty between men who knew what survival cost. I don't know what we are. We're figuring it out. But whatever it is, it's not affecting my work or her decisions as CEO. Fair enough. Just be careful. Board's watching both of you. They're looking for any excuse to claim impropriety. Noted. Sophie started second grade that fall. came home with artwork and spelling tests and stories about her new best friend Madison. She'd grown 2 inches, was reading chapter books, had opinions about everything from dinner choices to global politics. "Daddy, why don't you and Miss Sterling just get married?" "Because marriage is complicated, sweetheart. We're still figuring out if we work as friends." "You work great as friends. I see how happy you are when she visits, how you smile at your phone when she texts, how you play piano differently now, like you're playing for someone instead of just for yourself." "When did you get so observant?" "I'm 7. I notice everything." October brought the first real cold, leaves turning gold and crimson in Central Park. Elizabeth and I walked there on Sunday afternoons when Sophie had playdates, just walking and talking and learning each other's rhythms. The board approved a review of all Sterling Productions settlements from the last 20 years. They want to identify anyone who is unfairly compensated after workplace injuries. That's a lot of settlements. 43 so far. Most were legitimate, but 7 look like what happened to you. Serious injuries from negligence, paid just enough to avoid lawsuits. What are you going to do? Reach out to each person, offer genuine compensation, job assistance if they need it, public acknowledgement that my father's company failed them. She kicked at fallen leaves. It won't undo the damage, but it's a start toward building something honest. Your father's going to lose his mind. My father can rot in Palm Springs for all I care. I'm not running his company anymore. I'm running mine. November brought intensive rehearsals for the December concert. Dr. Kent arranged practice time at a Manhattan studio, brought in an accompanist to help me prepare. I'd chosen 3 pieces: Midnight Echo, a Chopin nocturne, and something I'd been composing in stolen hours. The new piece was called Second Movement. Built from Midnight Echo's themes, but transformed, where the original spoke of yearning and distance, this spoke of connection and courage. Where the original grieved, this celebrated. Sophie listened to me practice it one evening, curled in the studio's corner with her homework. "That's beautiful, Daddy. It sounds like you found what you were looking for." "What do you think I was looking for?" "The same thing everyone looks for. Someone who sees you and stays anyway." I stopped playing, turned to face her. "You're 7. How do you know about this stuff?" "Mommy used to say it, that she saw all your broken pieces and loved you more because of them, not despite them." She was right. "And Miss Sterling sees your broken pieces too. I can tell because she looks at your hand the way you look at her, like the scars are proof of something valuable, not something to hide." Out of the mouths of children. The concert was scheduled for December 22nd, exactly 1 year after the Christmas party that changed everything. Sterling Tower Ballroom, 500 guests, media coverage that would either resurrect my reputation or confirm I was finished. Olivia arranged for Sophie to sit front row with Sarah Chen. Mrs. Chen insisted on coming, brought her church friends, turned it into a whole production. Dr. Kent handled the program, added my bio with careful honesty. Scholarship student who helped complete Daniel Cross's masterwork, injured in workplace accident, recovering after reconstructive surgery. Backstage the night of the concert, my hands shook, not from nerve damage, but pure terror. What if I freeze? What if muscle memory fails? What if everyone realizes I'm a fraud who got lucky with 1 surgery? Olivia took my face in her hands, forced me to meet her eyes. "Listen to me. You've already survived the worst thing that could happen. Your hand was destroyed, your career ended, your wife died, and you kept going. This is just playing music for people who already love you. What if then you stop You breathe and you start again. That's what humans do. We stumble and we keep going anyway. Sophie appeared, beautiful in a navy dress she'd picked herself. Ready, Daddy? No. But I'm going anyway. That's what brave means. The stage lights were blinding. I couldn't see individual faces, just an ocean of silhouettes. Sophie sat front row center, giving me a thumbs up that made my throat close. I sat at the grand piano, adjusted the bench, placed my hands on the keys. Started with Midnight Echo. The opening bars came easily, muscle memory taking over. But midway through the second section, my right hand cramped, sharp pain shooting from palm to elbow. Fingers stuttered on the keys, the melody fracturing. I felt Sophie's presence even though I couldn't see her clearly. Felt her touch on my shoulder, the way she'd done during practice when I struggled. Solidarity without words. I pushed through, compensated with my left hand, simplified passages my right couldn't navigate, made the imperfection part of the performance instead of a failure to hide. The final notes hung in the air like a question finally answered. Applause erupted, standing ovation that went on long enough that I worried they'd never let me continue. But I raised my hand for silence, spoke into the microphone. This final piece is new. I call it second movement because every great piece of music has more than one part. And this, all of this, is just our beginning. It's about second chances, about broken things made beautiful, about love that waits patiently until it's called into the light. I began playing, and somewhere in the audience, Olivia understood why I'd kept this composition secret. The melody built from Midnight Echo's foundation, but transformed it into something communal instead of solitary. Sophie joined me for the final phrases. We'd practiced this in secret, her small hands picking out simple counter-melody I'd taught her. Father and daughter creating beauty together, imperfect and honest and achingly human. When the music ended, I stood with Sophie in my arms, found Olivia in the crowd. She'd moved from her seat, was standing in the aisle with tears streaming down her face. Dr. Kent watched from the wings, weeping openly. He'd taught thousands of students over 50 years, but this, watching a broken man reclaim his voice through love, a frozen woman thaw through courage, this was the masterpiece. The after-party blurred together, donors congratulating me, students asking questions, media requests I deflected to Kent. But eventually, the crowd thinned, and I found Olivia on the ballroom balcony, looking out at the city lights. You were magnificent. I was adequate, which is more than I hoped for. You were human, real. That's worth more than technical perfection. I stood beside her, shoulders touching in the December cold. What happens now? Now we figure out what this is, what we are. She turned to face me. The board's oversight period ends in January. After that, I'll have more freedom. And you'll be teaching piano. Kent's already got you lined up with students. So we wait? Keep pretending we're just friends who happen to text constantly and think about each other every waking moment? Or we stop pretending. Her voice carried the same determination she'd used to face her board. The world already thinks we're together. Might as well make it honest. Your reputation was built on lies and compromises. I'd rather have honesty and you than another decade of Ice Queen armor. She took my scarred hand, held it like it was precious. Besides, you taught me something important. Love isn't about ownership. It's about seeing someone's broken pieces and loving them more because of them, not despite them. Sophie appeared in the doorway, grinning like she'd won a lottery. "Are you done being scared? Can we go home now?" "Yeah, sweetheart. We can go home." "All of us? Together?" Olivia looked at me, question in her eyes. I nodded. "Yeah, baby. All of us together." 6 months later, we stood in the same ballroom, but this time for a different celebration. Sterling Capital had established a foundation to compensate victims of workplace negligence, started with the 43 cases from Richard Sterling's era. The event honored those who'd rebuilt their lives after corporate indifference tried to destroy them.
The cellist I'd saved in Cleveland was there. She'd gone on to play with the Boston Symphony, raised 2 kids, lived the life my sacrifice made possible. She found me during cocktail hour. "Thomas Hayes, I've wanted to thank you properly for 16 years. "No thanks necessary. Anyone would have done the same." "No, they wouldn't have. Most people freeze in crisis. You moved." She gestured at her children, playing with Sophie near the dessert table. "My whole life exists because you didn't freeze. That deserves more than $75,000 and a gag order." "It deserves nothing. I'm just glad you're okay." After she left, Olivia slipped her hand into mine. "Still think you're just an ordinary guy?" "I'm a guy who got lucky with his choices. Could have easily gone the other way. But it didn't."
And now you're teaching piano to 15 students, playing weekend gigs at jazz clubs, raising a daughter who's wise beyond her years, and... She paused, smile playing at her lips. "And putting up with a workaholic CEO who still doesn't know how to cook." "You're learning. Last week's pasta was almost edible." "Ass." Sophie ran over, breathless with excitement. "Daddy, Miss Sterling, Madison's mom says we can have a sleepover next week. Can I? Please?" "We'll talk about it later, sweetheart." After she ran off, Olivia studied me with calculating eyes. "You know what a sleepover means, right? Whole night with the apartment to ourselves?" "I'm aware." "And you're blushing like a teenager. It's adorable." "I'm 37. I don't blush." "You absolutely do." She kissed my cheek, lingering just long enough to make my pulse race. "We should probably discuss logistics. My place or yours?" "Yours has better soundproofing." "For the piano," I added quickly. "Sure. For the piano." That's definitely what I was thinking about. We've been taking things slowly, dates that ended with goodnight kisses, family dinners with Sophie, learning each other's routines and quirks and damage. But the sleepover would change things, add physical intimacy to emotional connection. "Are you nervous?" She asked it quietly, vulnerability showing through CEO confidence. "Terrified. You?" "Same. But Rachel was right. Some things are worth being scared about." "You never met Rachel. How do you know what she'd say?" "Sophie tells me. She says her mom told her that you deserved to find love again, that she wanted you to be happy." Olivia's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I wish I could thank her for giving you permission, for being generous enough to want your happiness even after she was gone." "She was better than I deserved." "You're better than you think. That's what people who've survived impossible things never understand. Survival itself is a form of grace." The foundation gave its final award of the night to me. A plaque recognizing my contribution to workplace safety advocacy. A check for $300,000 as compensation for what Sterling Productions had failed to provide. I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. Found Sophie's face, beaming with pride. Found Olivia's, fierce with love. Found the cellist and her children,
living proof that one choice 16 years ago had mattered. I don't have a fancy speech prepared. I'm not good at words. I'm better at music. But I want to say something to everyone here who's rebuilt their life after someone else's negligence tried to destroy it. I held up my right hand, scars visible under stage lights. These marks don't make me weak. They're evidence that I survived, that I chose to save someone instead of protecting myself, that I've learned to make beauty from broken pieces. My voice strengthened, carrying across the ballroom. And if you're out there wondering if you'll ever be whole again after someone broke you, the answer is no. You won't be whole the way you were, but you can be whole in a different way. Honest and scarred and still capable of extraordinary things. The applause was immediate and thunderous, but I wasn't finished. One more thing. Daniel Cross started writing a song 16 years ago and couldn't finish it. I completed it, gave it away, let someone else take credit because I thought love meant sacrifice without recognition. But I was wrong. I found Olivia in the crowd, held her gaze. Love isn't about hiding in shadows or martyring yourself for someone else's happiness. Real love is choosing each other despite the complications, despite the fear, despite the world telling you it's impossible. It's showing up every day and saying, I see your broken pieces, and I'm staying anyway. Someone in the crowd, I think it was Dr. Kent, started clapping. Others joined until the whole ballroom thundered with applause. After, when the event ended and guests filed out into December cold, Sophie fell asleep against my shoulder while we waited for the car. Olivia stood beside me, hand in mine, watching snow begin to fall through the ballroom windows. "What are you thinking?" she asked. That 16 years ago, I wrote a song for a girl I thought I could never have. Gave it away because I believed love meant sacrifice. And now? Now I know love is both sacrifice and claiming, both giving and receiving, both patience and courage. I kissed her forehead, breathed in her shampoo, something expensive that smelled like citrus and possibility. Now I know that the best music comes from broken people brave enough to play anyway. Sophie stirred against my shoulder, murmured in her sleep, "Love you, Daddy. Love you, Olivia." It was the first time she'd called Olivia by her first name instead of Ms. Sterling, the first time she'd included her in the "love you" that usually belonged only to me. Olivia's breath caught. "Did she just?" "Yeah, she did." "Is that okay? With you, I mean. I don't want to replace Rachel or—" "You're not replacing anyone. You're adding to our family. There's a difference." The car arrived. I carried Sophie out into the snow, Olivia beside me, the three of us moving together through the December night. Behind us, Sterling Tower rose against the sky, monument to everything we'd survived and everything we'd built from the ruins. At home, I tucked Sophie into bed, kissed her forehead, found Olivia waiting in the kitchen with 2 glasses of wine. "To second movements," she offered, raising her glass. "To broken things made beautiful." We clinked glasses, drank, and somewhere in the apartment, the piano waited. Not the Steinway from the ballroom, but the upright Olivia had bought for our living room. Practical, unassuming, perfect for a man who'd learned that greatness wasn't about flash or fame, but about showing up every day and making honest music, despite the scars. I sat at the bench and Olivia joined me, her thigh warm against mine. Started playing softly so we wouldn't wake Sophie. Not Midnight Echo or Second Movement, but something new I'd been composing in stolen hours between teaching and maintaining and learning to love again. This piece had no name yet. Maybe it didn't need one.
Maybe the best things in life existed without labels. Just the choosing, the showing up, the brave decision to keep making beauty even when your hands shook and your heart remembered every reason to quit. Olivia leaned her head on my shoulder while I played. Outside, snow fell thick and clean, covering the city in temporary grace. Inside, we sat at the piano, broken pianist and frozen CEO and sleeping child upstairs, and created something that sounded like hope tastes when you've survived long enough to deserve it. The music swelled, imperfect and honest and true, and in that moment, with my scarred hands on the keys, and the woman I'd loved for 16 years finally beside me, I understood what Rachel had been trying to tell me when she said it was okay to choose happiness. Some promises aren't made with words. They're made with music and time, and the daily courage to show up despite the scars. They're made when you teach a 7-year-old that being brave means doing scary things anyway. They're made when you choose honesty over comfort, truth over image, love over fear. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those promises don't break you. They rebuild you into something better than you were, still damaged, still imperfect, but finally, beautifully, completely alive.